In 1937, Congress passed the Marijuana Tax Act, which in essence began the federal criminalization of pot. Now, it's been nearly 75 years since then. I gotta ask you, how's that war on drugs going for us? Now, let me be a little bold and ask you this as well, or say this to you. I can prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt how ridiculous this war on drugs is. Really? Can I? All right, let's watch and see. Raise your hand if you think we will ever win the war on drugs. That we would have, for example, a United States president come out and say, today we have completely defeated drugs, we won, drugs lost. Seriously, did any of you raise your hand? Does anyone in the country believe that? Even the most ardent, the drugs are like, yeah, drugs. Does he really think we're going to win the war on drugs and people aren't going to take drugs anymore? That sounds crazy, right? So why do all of our politicians insist on fighting this senseless and very expensive war that we all know is completely and utterly unwinnable? Well, good news. It turns out not all of them do. Joining me now is United States Congressman Polis, who has called for the end of the marijuana prohibition. Congressman, first of all, as far as this war on drugs, I don't know of a policy in our history. I mean, maybe the Cuba embargo, is competitive, but this one is even longer than the Cuban embargo. That is more of a failure. So when you ask people who are on the other side, what's their argument? What's their argument? Like, do they think we're winning?
Yeah, it does remind me of the Cuba embargo, and I'm a co-sponsor of the bill to eliminate that as well. It's obvious we're not winning to anybody who looks at it. I mean, drugs are fundamentally a health issue. Is there abuse of drugs? Absolutely. Do people abuse alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana? Yes. Should we have a national health strategy around reducing that? Yes. Does throwing people in prison for smoking a joint make any sense? No.
All right, so I want to know if there's real momentum for this. How many congressmen do you have on your side? Are we getting somewhere here?
I would say an increasing number, Cenk, and what's happening is a lot of the initiative is taking on at the state level. We're now over 15 states that have medical marijuana. My home state of Colorado, there's a study yesterday that came out that showed it's now the legal marijuana is now a $1.7 billion industry. They're getting organized, the patients, the providers, they're lobbying Congress, and I think members are beginning to pay attention. You don't find a lot of them that are die-hard opposed to it. A lot of members of Congress are kind of waiting to see which way the wind goes on this one.
Well, and you see, we got a list of people who say that they are for decriminalizing marijuana, Barney Frank, Blumenauer, Hinchey, et cetera, et cetera. But on the Senate side, we have an interesting person, Jim Webb. He hasn't said that he's for legalization, but he apparently wants to look into the issue somehow. What are you encouraged by that, and what exactly do you think Senator Webb wants to do?
I am, and I think what we're going to see is more senators from states that already have it legalized or medicalized will feel pressure from their states, pressure from the people who use it legally to at least conform the federal laws to the state laws and allow them to do it. That's one of the reasons that I recently launched fearlesscampaign.com/drug policy. It's a website that will provide an organizing tool to those of us who want to see a change with regard to our health policy, advancing bills at the federal level that effectively decriminalize marijuana.
Right, and you said earlier that the movement is really gaining hold in the country, and that's true because you see it in the poll numbers. For example, in 2000, only 31% supported legalization. In 2010, now it's 46%. So that's gone up 15%. That's a huge number. But there's another side of this too, Congressman, which is the money. Tell us about how much this is costing us, because that should drive conservatives crazy. We should get agreement on that.
Not only is it costing us money, it's actually costing us lives. The illegal trade in marijuana contributes about half of the money to the criminal drug cartels along the U.S.-Mexico border. It would strike a death blow against them and for law and security if we legalize and regulate the production of marijuana. On top of that, the financial cost, the money we're flushing down the drain, treating what is fundamentally a health issue as a criminal issue.
And, of course, what a lot of people at home are thinking is, yeah, but we can't really legalize, can we? But then everybody would do drugs. But when you look at other countries like Portugal, actually drug use goes down when you legalize drugs. Are you getting any headway on that? Are people finally realizing, oh my God, and look at this, middle school drug use has gone down in 5 years after Portugal decriminalized, and the HIV infection rate also went down 17% because then it was safer, right? Are you getting any headway on that? Are you able to convince people, no, well, just because you legalize it doesn't mean everybody goes nuts and starts smoking every minute of the day?
One of the arguments that we use a lot is if we legalize and regulate marijuana, we can more effectively keep it out of the hands of children. As long as it's an underground market, the corner drug dealer doesn't care if he's selling to somebody who's 14 or 44. If we can regulate it, and just as we enforce our alcohol laws at stores, we feel that we can reduce the abuse of minors with regard to marijuana.
All right. Congressman Polis of Colorado, thank you so much for your time tonight. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Cenk.